Houchin. Lots of you know that I've been doing magic for a long time. But some of you may or may not know that I've been into filmmaking for even longer. I absolutely love the horror genre.
The boogeyman's real, and you found him.
I am so intrigued by movies and the filmmaking process that I think my love for shock magic culminates into all of that. Instead of just doing another typical magic video, I thought, why not just flip it? Kind of take you behind the scenes of how I got into the most disturbing category of magic. You that may not know, I've been into filmmaking longer than I've been into magic. Huge fan of the horror genre, I am myself, as well as maybe a lot of other people that understand horror in so many different ways that the possibilities are just shocking.
This is the behind the scenes of deadly illusions.
Everybody has their own genre. Could be documentary, sci-fi, comedy. For me, it was always horror. I guess horror just kind of stuck out more in my mind for some reason. I remember when I was a little kid, I always, watched a few horror films and it scared the hell out of me. And it's probably because I didn't understand why it was happening or what I was seeing. But then later on I watched more and more and I just realized that it was my imagination kind of running away with me. Kind of like painting a picture. If you think about it, lots of people scare themselves without really knowing why it's so scary or whatever's scary to them. Most of the time, you know, you sort of have to be your own judge, like, what scares you. I'll give you a good example. There was this black and white movie done in the 60s by this legendary director, Alfred Hitchcock. He made movies that were kind of creepy, suspenseful, mysterious, weird, odd. The shower scene in Psycho is probably one of the best scenes that you can learn from any old movie, because in the end there's nothing really shown. It's all implied. All you see is a bunch of chocolate syrup circling the drain. Alfred Hitchcock, the director of the movie, he knew how to bring that kind of sense, that kind of tone to his audience. And I find myself that I am heavily influenced by that. Alfred Hitchcock was the top of his class. He truly does leave a mark in cinematic history. How I got interested in shock magic started in about the middle of November of 2011. I was up late one night and I was just browsing around all these different magic videos, and I guess I was kind of looking for something a little bit out of the ordinary. I do have quite a respect for a lot of magicians and illusionists that specialize in card tricks or card magic, because they are very hard and I know they work diligently on them and they do them very well. But for me, just I grown out of that phase, and it just really wasn't me anymore. I wanted to see what the possibilities of the horror macabre were in the forefront of people, up close. I came across this particular video. It was by this man named Houchin, this magician. He takes a piece of thread, rips it off, and then sticks it in his mouth, starts to eat it. Somehow he seems to ingest this, and then he starts to take the thread and pull it out of his eye. I'm looking at this going, holy, like, I had to learn this, like, not in 6 months, not in a year, not in a week. I had to learn this. I was just so determined, like going to like bars, pubs, family events, wherever it was, people would come up to me and they'd say, hey, do the string trick, and I'm like, what? Oh, okay, I got you. Yeah, sure, because it was great. When I was practicing thread, I tried to come up with an explanation as to why I needed to do this one. I couldn't really come up with the greatest explanation other than, hey, this is me pushing my own mentality. Or in other words, kicking magic in its tired old ass. The whole process of it was quite difficult. It's the most weirdest way to doing something that's magic. You know, it's not me shuffling a deck of cards. The only thing about pulling thread to your eye was, I didn't know how many times you'd be doing it. Of course you do it in front of a mirror and wherever by yourself for a long time, just to, you know, get the basics of it, get used to it and everything. I was super excited to learn this one, like, right now. But it didn't happen right away, of course. It is painful. Like, it does hurt not putting the thread in your mouth. That's easy. Anyone can put thread in their mouth. But pulling it out of your eye, my eye would just water. My eye would like start to like tear up a little bit after a while of doing it so many times, because I had to do it over and over and over. Just kind of block the pain out. I mean, it's still kind of there, but you just don't really think about it, you just do it. Pulling thread out of your eye is almost unteachable. You can't teach someone how to pull thread out of their eye. It's just not going to work. It's not. After I had performed thread for a long time, part of me was just continuing doing that illusion, and another part of me was kind of looking for other effects like that, or sort of along those lines. I was kind of thinking maybe my days of shock magic are sort of over, but fortunately that was answered for me about a year later. A while ago, I stumbled upon a guy named Sean Fields. Now, this guy is great. He definitely knows shock magic. He's got this kind of creepy, weird sense. He came out with a trailer in 2012 called the Sickness Trilogy. And what it is it's 3 of the most graphic shock magic effects or illusions. If anyone has a weak stomach or isn't too fond with any of this stuff, they may have their objections. It shows this guy that's trapped in this room, like kind of isolated. He elaborates on the most twisted magic possible. The moment I saw this trailer, my eyes were like wide as saucers. I was watching this going, here's some more shock magic. Yep, definitely right up my alley.
First one is sick.
The magician takes a coin and swallows it. Then he takes a razor blade and cuts his wrist. The revelation is when he pulls the coin out of his arm, with the spectator's signature on it.
When I first saw this trailer, I was like, whoa, this is awesome. Like, crazy. In a good sort of way. This is magic on a different scale that I think anyone's ever thought of. Why do magicians do these things? Well, because sometimes they're simply tired of the same old beaten-to-death tricks. For example, this is just a regular coin trick. You have the coin, you take it, put it into your hand, and it's gone, right? Well, that's what people are expecting to see. You have the coin, you act as if you put it in your hand, but really it's in the other one the whole time. You know, after doing that so many times, it's just gonna get tiresome. It's just gonna get boring to you. And not only that, it's just gonna get boring to people that watch all the time and going, oh, okay, yeah. What else? What else can you do? When you see something like sick, pulling a coin out of your wrist, it's literally sick. Like, what the hell? You know? And that's when I kind of look back at the horror genre, and I'm like thinking, this looks grim, creepy. How can I use this? You know? I kind of try to put my own certain style to it and whatnot. If a magician does coin magic, this would be the most twisted take on any illusion. When most people think of Saw, they think of the horror movie franchise. Usually when a magician does Saw, he uses a ring and a chain, or whatever his performance is based on. When I do Saw, I usually bring my own ring, bring my own chain, because a lot of people have necklaces on them, chains that it's new and they might not want to take off because they think that you might break it on them or something. And lots of people have rings on their fingers that are sentimental or special to them, and they're sometimes hesitant to take them off and borrow them because they think that you might lose them or damage them. I like Saw because it kind of finds its own way to fit into your repertoire, if you will, or your routines. A lot of people get inspired by different performances that they see. I definitely did. I got inspired by the Sickness Trilogy trailer, so I had posted my own video. How can I tell a sort of a story on shock magic? You know, how could I kind of make it fun, disturbing, twisted, all at the same time, and have it stand out and be so visceral to anyone that had watched it. Saw was basically like every other illusion. It took its time to get down. For me, it was about maybe 3 or 4 months, or however much long it took to just practice profusely at it. Ripping a chain out of your neck with the ring attached to it was just it's not something that you want to do from table to table, like exploring magic, constantly ripping a chain out of your neck, because my neck would get really red and irritated, and it would just kind of bother me after a bit. Not something that you want to do over and over and over continuously. But it was great because it was one of those ones that was kind of grim, and I think it definitely caught people off guard and kind of stood out on its own. Like, it was just really cool. I guess I was a little bit obsessed with shock magic, but I mean, you learn something like that. My interest was kind of on one illusion that just really stood out for me, and that was excise. This thread and needle. This kind of thing had been done by Harry Houdini, but in a different variation. Houdini made this famous in the early 1900s, where he'd take this big piece of thread, about 100 needles, and he'd take the needles, he'd pierce swallow them. He'd take the thread, pierce swallow that, and he'd pull the thread out of his mouth with all the needles attached, inch by inch, one by one by one by one by one. And no one knew how he did it. There was always magicians that had done the razor blade swallowing illusion, that had practiced and mastered this over time, where they take about 5 or 6 razor blades, they put those in their mouth, they take a piece of thread, they put that in their mouth, and slowly kind of manipulating the razor blades in their mouth, they have the string pulled out, and about each inch or so there would be about 5 or 6 razor blades threaded on string. And I remember watching this and thinking, this is like thread, but it was like kind of going to a whole other chapter in shock magic. I have to give great credit to Sean Fields, because he did such a superb job on this one. This one is just fantastic. I'm not necessarily sure you'd see yourself doing this at your grandma's tea party or a best friend's wedding, or maybe you are. Maybe you're that freaking crazy. some people may wonder if this is where shock magic, or maybe magic like this in general, crosses the line, or wherever. When you see someone put a needle in their neck, and then eat string, swallow it, and begin to pull the thread out of their neck with the needle intact, you know, you're probably gonna be thinking, this person's crazy, like a lunatic. You know, why would they do that? And I think it's just maybe a twisted sense of humor, or this guy really thinks outside the box. He's very creative up here when it comes to that sort of thing. That's what I like about shock magic, you know, this, you can tell like, right away that it's not a card trick. I think it lives up to that dark and edgy persona that I try to accomplish. In other words, I hope it sets a different tone and helps engage appreciation for myself. Not only that, but for others as well. As magicians, I think we all tend to go our separate ways in our performances. But I think with shock magic, and I find that it's less predictable. With magic, before I go into any performance, I always try and say it like this. For those who believe, no explanation is necessary. For those who do not believe, no explanation